Parish property taxes in its evaluation. Mr. Cone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be an evaluation, and the best way to describe it, it is what it is. This is without editorial comment. The data and the information which I'll be using has been mined from various sources, but primarily the Louisiana Bond Commission, the 2016 property tax notices, which we all received at the end of last year, and hopefully you've paid by now, and then the adopted budget for 2016 and 17. Overall, Lafayette Parish ranks 50th in the total parish millage out of 64 parishes in Louisiana. And this is from the 2015 Louisiana Bond Commission report for major population centers. So if you look at these major population centers, Bossier Parish would be Bossier City. Monroe is in Ouachita Parish. Shreveport in Caddo. In South Louisiana, which is the fastest growing section of the state, you have Gretna in Jefferson, you have Lake Charles in Calcasieu, East Baton Rouge is Baton Rouge, Orleans is New Orleans, and of course Covington is in St. Tammany Parish. When we look at our property taxes for Lafayette Parish, this is the list of the tax authorities for our parish. The highest amount of property taxes which we pay as citizens of the parish is 33.56 mills, and that goes to the school board. Lafayette Consolidated Government, at least the parish side of Lafayette Consolidated Government, receives 22.8 or 20.75. And the difference there is that outside of the municipalities, we pay a little bit more, 3.05. For those of us who live inside the municipalities, we pay 152. However, if you live inside a municipality, one of the 6 in Lafayette Parish, you also pay a local general alimony tax. So that's why there's a difference in the amount of tax between the unincorporated area and the municipalities of the parish. So when you look at it in a graph form, you can see that of the total tax dollars that you pay in Lafayette Parish, 39% goes to the school board. Only 28%, less than a little bit more than a quarter of the property taxes that we pay actually go toward the operations of Lafayette Consolidated Government. And when you further break down these numbers with that 28% of the total property tax millage, with 22.28 going to the unincorporated area and 20.75 to the within the 6 municipalities, you can see the breakdown. Roads and bridges, drainage, courthouse and jail, these are all mandated costs that we have within the parish of Lafayette. Now, we must make note at this point that all the property taxes that we pay, except for general alimony, are dedicated property taxes. They cannot be used in any other source of funding. The exception, as I mentioned earlier, is the general alimony property tax, which is established by the state constitution, and this goes into the general fund. There has been no parish property tax increase in recent history. The millage rates, give or take a few points, pre-existed 1996 Lafayette Consolidated Government. There was one exception. The public health and mosquito control millage was amended in 2014 to include parish-wide animal control, but the millage stayed the same. Here's how we break down the Lafayette Consolidated Government parish property taxes. A couple of things to note in this list. Recent rain events have brought drainage to the headlines of just about every news organization in Lafayette Parish. But of the total property tax that we pay in Lafayette Parish, only 4% goes to drainage maintenance. We also had an opportunity last year to address the new property tax assessments for the parish, and when we do so, because of state law, we have to first roll back all of our millages so that we do not reflect an increase in revenue based on the new assessments. But then we have the opportunity to roll forward to take advantage of the increase in property values throughout the parish. And we did that in most cases. However, we did not adjust the millage rates to reflect an increase for detention and correctional facilities, the library, there are 3 property taxes there, the Lafayette Airport, and then LEDA had requested that we not roll forward on their taxes. All other parish property taxes were rolled forward. I'm going to look at 4 key funds that I think are of major concern moving forward. First of all, the roads and bridges. Keeping in mind that all of the deficit operations in these dedicated property taxes are going to be subsidized by the general fund or an available fund balance. And the best way to describe a fund balance, it's a piggy bank, a savings account, that in most every instance we have been able to draw from that piggy bank or from that savings account and cover our deficits up to and including this budget year. For example, the Road and Bridges Fund, we generate with the revenue from the dedicated property tax and other revenue, we bring in around $13 million. Our operations for this current year, a little above $15 million. We are at a deficit operation of $2 million for the current budget year. So what we have done, we've gone to the piggy bank and we pulled a couple of bucks out. And if you look at the fund balance for roads and bridges in 14-15 actual numbers, it was a little above $10.6 million. Well, in the subsequent years, we've drawn on that $9 million plus. So we have a fund balance of $1,335.89. Our deficit this year was $1,956. In future years, we cannot depend upon the fund balance to make up that difference. And the result will be we will have to go into the general fund to cover those shortfalls.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what did I say?
just keep going.
Oh, 1.3 million. Oh, sorry. No, we definitely will not have a fund balance then. Yeah. Drainage maintenance. As I said, a lot of people, it's top of mind, but we only devote 4% of our property taxes to drainage. The 3.34 mills, with the help of some other revenue sources, brought in about $7.5 million this current fiscal year. Our operating budget and our capital improvements projects total 8.4. That left us with a deficit of $937,000. If you look back to 14-15, we had almost $13 million in that fund balance. We have drawn out over $12 million. So we have $908,443, which will go nowhere to covering the budget again. It's not as bad as the other one, but still, we have depleted our fund balance. These are areas of major concern. It's our correctional facility maintenance. That's our parish jail. 1.9 mills generates a revenue of a little above $4 million. Other revenues bring in a total of about $4.38 million. Operation expenses and capital improvements program for the jail around $8.5 million. So we have a deficit in the current budget year of over $4 million. This fund has not and does not have a fund balance. So the obvious question is, where is that deficit being covered? It's being covered from the courthouse maintenance fund, and it's referred to in many different ways. Most of us refer to it as the courthouse complex, which includes the courthouse building itself and the parish jail. It's listed on our tax notices as courthouse maintenance. It's adequate to cover the expenses and the capital expenditures for the current fiscal year because the courthouse is an aging building. But while it's able to cover the $4.4 million, what we have done is we have transferred some monies from that fund to the jail, a little above $4 million. So the deficit operations now is $3.1. In 14-15, we had about $6.6 million. We have drawn out over $6 million since then. So now we have $630,000, or $631, that will be not near enough to cover a deficit if it repeats in the coming year. And in all probability, not only will it reoccur, it will probably increase. So looking at the Parish Operations General Fund, the biggest drain on that fund at the moment is the jail. There is no fund balance. There's a 1.9 property millage, which is obviously inadequate to cover expenses. And the general fund subsidy in recent years has been $7.4 million. And in all probability, that will increase in the future. When you look at the courthouse complex millage, it is sufficient for the moment to cover operating expenses of the courthouse. But then when you throw in the transfer of funds to cover that shortfall in the jail, it's going to be completely depleted by the end of the fiscal year 2017-18. Our parish general fund has two primary sources of revenue. One is that general alimony tax that I mentioned earlier, and the other is a 1% sales tax in the unincorporated parish. 35% of the general fund comes from the 1-cent sales tax. Historically, that sales tax has been decreasing every year. The most recent factor has been because of our down economy. But the other factor is that over the years, the municipalities in Lafayette Parish, and there are 6 of us in the parish, have reached out and captured those areas that began to generate sales taxes. Anytime a municipality annexes an unincorporated part of the parish, they pick up the sales tax. The parish of Lafayette loses that source of sales tax. So reiterating what happens to the general fund, this year we have $12.7 million. It does subsidize fund shortfalls. In the current budget, there was a decrease of nearly $4 million from the previous budget. The projected ending fund balance is $61,000. This provides or proves to have financial pressure on the general fund to provide for just general governmental services. This year, the budget presented by the administration and approved by this council, we had a significant impact on the general fund in terms of providing for subsidies. Because of that, we had to cut back on the parish volunteer fire department's supplemental aid, and we cut 20% across all departments and divisions. We went even further. We terminated the parish contribution to the Cajun Dome. We terminated the external arts and culture and social services grants from Lafayette Parish's budget. We are going into a general fund ending balance at the end of this year projected to be around $61,000. If we take the subsidies that were expected from drainage, from roads and bridges, from the jail fund, from the courthouse complex, we're looking at $3 million deficit. There will be some other shortfalls that we'll have to cover. So we are looking at additional reductions in expenditures that will be necessary in future fiscal years. So that's an evaluation. And as I said at the beginning, it is what it is. It's not a matter of interpretation. It is what you and I pay in parish property taxes and what your consolidated government pays to fund mandatory expenses and just general operational expenses for the parish.